News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. I trust that everybody's had a splendid weekend, and but we are back to basics, aren't we? Because it's time that we pose the question: is the government planning for recovery or disaster? My guest this evening is a former senior advisor to the Ministry of Finance, no less, and has a sort of interest in matters of the stock exchange. He was, of course, the one-time Director General at the Securities Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka, Mr. Malik Kada. Very good evening to you, Mr. Kada, and welcome on the program.
Good evening, Faraz, and it's nice to be on the program as usual.
Thank you very much. Now then, Mr. Kada, honestly, is the government planning for recovery or disaster?
Faraz, in what context are you asking that question?
Well, I made some notes, so I can share them now with you and our listeners. Rising interest rates is the party pooper for corporates, isn't it, really? With rampant rates over 32%, what's the damage to corporate survival? Right? Do we want that? Promotions, salary increases, annual bonuses will all also be affected. So the context is, the planning that this government has done is to contract the economy. From $80+ billion, it's now between 60 and 65, and on top of that, we are officially a poor country with per capita GDP below 3,000. I was listening to the new Prime Minister in Britain. He's talking about constantly growing the economy, growing jobs, and I suppose in the fullness of time he will then come back and control inflation and taxation and so on. But isn't that what Sri Lanka ought to be doing?
Yes, Faraz, but I think a comparison to be drawn between Britain and Sri Lanka.
Oh, I thought you'd say that, but I'm just talking about the theory. I'm not talking about the two economies.
No, agree.
But I'm talking about the theory of growing the economy, growing employment.
Yeah, but what you need to understand, Faraz, is in this context, these are two different, like you're trying to compare apples and oranges, right? Not that what you're trying to say, there's a lot of merit in what you're trying to say, but one needs to understand, Faraz, one basic principle, right, is that we were down and under, right? Not because of you and me, not because of the administration you see at this moment, right? But not because of COVID. Right, people are blaming a lot of things for COVID.
We all know that,
right? So COVID is, everyone had the COVID, but we were destroyed
by
as a country and and the economy.
We were mismanaged,
corrupt to the core.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. Right, for us, I remember Honorable Mangala Samaravira. I think about 5 years ago, went on to say that those who put the hand into the till, right, did damages to the tune of 19 billion. Okay, forget about 19 billion. Let's take a very conservative figure, 25% of that. Okay,
because I think
which is about 4 or 5 billion.
Yeah.
Very conservative. For us, if that 4 or 5 billion was there in the kitty at this moment of time, the line of talking you're having, discussion we're having right now, will not be, we will not be discussing this thing.
I would like to point out then, in that case, and this, because on social media, somebody contacted my colleague Sean Benedict and said that, the program is trying to blame this squarely on this government. Hardly.
No, this government.
But what I'm saying is that during the period up to the start of the Apalani government, Sri Lanka's economy actually grew. You were at the stock exchange. The stock exchange, the all-share index just flew.
Yeah, Faraz, let me correct you on this particular thing you're talking about. The economy grew, right? I mean, it's nice to have basically to say that the
All these
economic
hotels were
yes,
built.
hotels are full. But the thing is, you I mean, your GDP grew. You have gone and invested in some places, right? Huge investments where there is no return, right? So naturally, numbers will look good, right? But there is no return.
Yes, of course,
right,
you're talking about the vanity projects like Hambantota,
yes, exactly, yes.
Mattala,
The numbers will look, GDP will basically go up, right? But where the return? Where the return for the money you have put into that?
So for that, those 9 or 10 years, the people had it good.
Yeah, so and also for us, one of the things you have to remember is during that era, there was money in the kitty, right? There was money in the kitty, right?
From where, though?
So they're the reserves we're talking about.
But they borrowed reserves.
No, there was also reserves of the country. For instance, just imagine you are having, don't you know, a couple of $1 million in your, I mean, in your Almera, right? You could start taking them and spending, not worrying about what the, don't you know, rupees and cents is, right?
Because there are people who claim to have $1 million in the safe.
Yeah. So you just take it, and until such time you find there is no money, right? That was January this year, right? We realized we don't have money now to import medicine.
But in between we had the Yahapalanist government.
Yes. So Yahapalanya, what we need to remember also during the Yahapalanya, I mean, we had amounts of issues, right, in terms of our budget deficits. But in 2017, right, there was a positive budget. It was a small amount, right? Positive. So it was being...
Mangala oversaw that.
Yeah. It was being managed, right? Not that it was the best which could happen, right? But there was a little discipline. So for us, whether we like it or not, right, we need to basically eradicate corruption, right? We need to bring good people into the system. Bureaucrats, particularly bureaucrats, will have to take a good stance on this thing.
I quite agree. And we need to... you're absolutely right. We need to get rid of corruption.
Yeah, for us, one of the things, I mean, look at this tax which has been brought in, right? I'm totally for the small man, right? Just imagine someone earning 500. It was in one of the newspapers. Someone earning 500,000 rupees, right? Before this tax regime, was paying a 6,000 rupee tax. Okay, now he has to pay something close to 60,000 rupees a month for that 500,000 for us, which also means, right, that there's inflation, right? Bread has gone up from 60 rupees to 300 rupees, right? Sugar has gone up from 99 to 300 rupees, right? So he has to spend more money, right, for consumption. On top of that, you're asking him to pay another 60,000 rupees on that 500,000 as taxes. I think the government should have been a little bit more reasonable and taken this tax bracket maybe at least to 1 million and given that benefit to the small man. Right? It's not going to make a huge difference, right? Looking at the numbers, they could have gone to the other side and whacked the guys who the tax evaders,
right?
Tax evaders. And talking about this, as I told you earlier, right? Why are all these taxes coming in? Why? Because right, there's a lot of lip service being done because someone has put, right, at some time, right, their hand into the till. Nothing is done. Nothing is done about that.
But Mr. Carter, you know, when we say it the way it is, people don't like it. When the bond, I'll change my words. When the alleged bond scam happened, and we still stand by it, oh, people weren't happy. People were not happy. And it's sad that some politicians use the bond scam to return to power. Right? And still nothing's being done about it.
Agreed.
And the people, please remember that the people's monies in form of the captive audience, like the EPF and the ETF monies, that's what went out. And if you don't care, well, you know, you don't care. But the majority of the people do care what happened to their money, whoever who took it. What about these sweetheart deals?
You have a...
You know, like the sugar, the garlic, the rice, all these sweetheart deals. Mattala Airport, Hambantota Port. Yes. These are sweetheart deals.
you're asking the small man to pay for that.
And now, that's why I'm saying to you,
That's unfair.
this government's planning,
That's
why
unfair.
I'm questioning the planning. Is the planning similar to a car without steering? Depending on the speed, the car will go wherever until it ends up in a ditch. So really, at this moment in time, Sri Lanka is in an abyss of despair. And to pull us all up is only a strand of hair. Do you think that we're on the right track by trying to contract the economy?
For us,
Before you answer,
Yeah.
62% of the people are daily waged.
yeah, agreed. For us, just to before answering your question, I think in fairness to those who are being asked to pay taxes now, right? The government or the authorities or the administrators should make some positive efforts to bring back that money which everyone is playing a lip service back to our economy. I can't see any positives in that. I cannot see any positives, right? But everyone knows, right? You go to a coffee evening, right? You talk to someone, everyone is talking about, right? About this money being robbed from them. And now you're asking the taxpayers, right? The small man to come and pay that, right? To recover what has been lost. That is unfair.
Of course it's unfair. I noticed, I've just come back from Kandy.
Oh.
I went on the train. It's excellent service, by the way, and kudos to the CGR, Sri Lanka Railways. Absolutely fantastic. They could do the toilets up a bit, but apart from that, 2.5 hours, largely on time. It was full.
It was full.
It was full. And I
So
spoke
people
to
are-
some youngish
Yeah.
people. And, you know, they were spending their money and going up there. But these young people were more or less saying what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're saying, why should we pay? They're clearly earning more than the 100,000 rupees a month.
Right.
Right? So they asked me the same question that you have just posed. Why should we pay? These guys have robbed us silly. And up to today, each government, each successive government, apart from SWRD Bandaranaike, we've gone that far back. Nobody has been charged and sentenced for corruption if they've been a member of parliament or minister. Korea, South Korea, 4 presidents jailed. So back to this question. You see, people, the interest rates are now over 30-odd%. We seem to have no planning. So it's like a car without the steering wheel. And then we look at this stock market that was at one stage the world's best performing stock market. Are you surprised that today people are finding the higher interest rates on offer as a better prospect than the stock market, which seems to have become like a damp piece of cloth?
You're right. Talking about the stock market, I think a lot of people are talking about a healthy stock market for us cannot be volatile, right? There can be ups and downs, right? But cannot be volatile the way it is at this moment of time, right? For us, would you know that 4 to 5 months ago, the market, right, was about 6,000 plus or 7,000 points. It went up within the last 4 to 5 months, 4,000 points, right? The index was just shot up, right, in 4 months. These are things you don't hear in other markets, right?
But
One of the things what we need to remember, look at some of the stocks.
I was about to say.
Right? Some of the big companies, right? I don't want to name the companies, right? The top 10 companies, right? On the index, right? The conglomerates, right? The big ones. Take the banks, right?
But
banks,
the banks didn't go up.
no, those stocks never went up. Banks only came down.
These are what we call the blue
chips. The blue chips. The blue chips didn't move. The banks didn't move. Some of the banks came down. Right? Banks which were about 130, 140 rupees a share came down to about 50. Some of the bigger banks, 60, came down to about 30, 35. Right? So the market has been very volatile.
It has been very volatile.
Right.
It's now time for a quick break when we take a look at this evening's primetime news headlines. And of course, I am in conversation with Mr. Malik Kader, former Director General at the Securities Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka and a senior advisor to the Ministry of Finance. We'll be back after the break.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Two people gunned down in Hikkadua. Unable to conduct x-rays even for emergencies, 20 types of tests at the NMRA halted. A concerning revelation from health trade unions. United Nations records facts from relatives of detained Siridam Matera. 116 human lives lost. 352 wild elephant deaths recorded so far this year owing to the human-elephant conflict. Price of bread reduced by 10 rupees. Violent clashes break out between students and security forces across Iran.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening and welcome back. I am in conversation with Mr. Malik Kader, former Director General at the Securities Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka and a senior advisor to the Ministry of Finance. How is it that this poor country and its people are suffering due to these ill-advised decisions taken by these politicians, whilst they, the politicians, are living in luxury and are given fancy homes and security, which is costing the poor people all over again? Isn't it shameless for these presidents to even take these perks, considering that the people are suffering due to them? They should be in jail and not these luxury homes. This is from a member of the public, clearly frustrated at the state of affairs. And on top of that, these politicians who have not, they may have the legal mandate and the constitutional mandate, but they don't have the moral mandate. I don't know about you, Mr. Kader, but I certainly wouldn't agree that they have the mandate anymore. We need elections, elections, elections. And the people are fed up because, like these people I met on the train, like you've just said, the taxes are going up. And the people who had no say in all these corrupt activities are now being asked to pay. There are various people who were charged and not, the case hasn't got very much far. You know, it's still stuck in the shunting place, you know.
Right.
So, which is why, again, I say to you, Mr. Kader, do you get this feeling that the government planning, is it planning for recovery, is it planning for disaster?
Well,
you can use the stock market as an example.
yeah, I mean, we've just spoken about the stock market, but for us, talking about the government, I also have the feeling that, quite rightly, as you said, whether there's stability in the government at this moment of time,
yeah,
right? They could always come and say, yes, we have, right? But look at the numbers. The Honorable His Excellency the President, right, came in with 1 seat into the Parliament, right? And he's supported by, right? We don't know whether that support which he has is strong. So whether the base is strong at this moment of time, we wouldn't know until such time, as you said, right? There's an election and there's stability which is being brought in.
Let's bring some balance. Let's bring some balance. Tell me, Mr. Kader, in your view, you're a finance legal background. In your view, give me a positive that this government have done. Give me a positive.
For us, from April onwards, if one was there in April, March, April and May, right, there might be, people might be talking about a lot of negatives on this whole thing.
But give me a positive.
Yeah, we don't have any more queues. For us,
Right.
2.5 days, at least 2.5 days,
Yes,
right?
I agree.
People were actually disgusted.
Yes.
Right.
But I want to. I want
yeah.
to now.
Okay.
I might as well give you a rebound. To
Okay,
that.
right, okay.
I agree, and I'm not trying to be ungrateful. Yeah.
Yeah.
To start with, our politicians have got no. I don't believe that they have a QR code. I'd love them to send us all definitive proof of that. But, you know, forget that.
Yeah.
There are no queues because you and I can get 20 litres apiece every week. So we can't travel as much as we can. Secondly, I don't know about your fees, but my salary is stable. It's fixed. That hasn't gone up. It hasn't come down either. But everything else has gone up.
It'll come down with the taxes now.
Absolutely. So what does that mean? It means that we are consuming less. Our economy has contracted from 80 plus billion to now between 60 and 65 billion. People are using less fuel. To start with, there's less fuel anyway. So this business about there's no queues is only optics. I'm not trying to be mean and say, oh, you know, he hasn't done anything and Faraz is bashing him.
Yeah.
No, I'm not bashing.
No, you have a...
I'm telling you the way it is.
No, you have a point to say that. But for us, at least you have a 20 litres now in your kitty, right? Good old days, we never had. We never had that luxury. You know, people are buying...
For 14 years, we did all right.
Yeah. People are buying petrol at 2,500 rupees a litre. I know a friend who bought 40 litres at 100,000 rupees because he had no other option. Right? Milk powder, right? We used to go and beg, people used to go and beg for milk powder. There was no milk powder.
But
there was no butter.
My man Gopi hasn't got anywhere more to beg because he tried his best and he couldn't get it.
I know. On a program we discussed and there was someone who went and...
Yes, I know.
gave
But,
him, yes.
you know, the Sri Lankan citizenry are pretty good at helping each other. That's what we do best. We help each other. But that doesn't mean that we deserve to have policies that are not planned properly. Yeah. What is...
One of the other things which actually we need to clean up.
Yes.
Public sector for us, right? As you quite rightly said, government people have come in, they have put employees. There's one listener who's a very, very influential person who's sent this to me.
Yes.
He has said LIOC has 185 employees, okay? Whereas the Petroleum Corporation has over 4,000 employees. Look at the disparity.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
Look at Sri Lankan Airlines, the number of people working there. Look at the CTB. So we have to be a little bit more efficient. If we are not efficient, we are asking that small man to pay for that.
Which is why the tax rate is now starting from the people earning 100,000 rupees.
Yes. So that's I think the administrators will have to, I think, look at the budget again and basically raise that slab to at least $1 million rupees and give that benefit, right? Because today $1 million rupees, right, is not too much, taking into consideration the dollar being at 360, right? So you should give that benefit to the small man, right?
Would you welcome a scenario where the economy is grown, where our 62% of the daily wage people will be assured of work? Because if the economy contracts, those 62% will not have work, Malik, and that's going to cost dearly. So would you welcome a scenario where the economy is grown, where there will be work for everybody?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you come round, because everyone's got money then.
Yes, and then you tax them.
And then you tax
them. For us to do that, first of all, we need to get into that very effective, efficient mode, right? We're talking about 185 to 4,000. Yeah. We need to get our things right there. Right? We shouldn't simply be loading just because politicians want us to load, right? If these organizations, right, are not performing, I don't know whether we should take a decision and close them because someone else is paying for it. Someone else is paying for it, right? So that's not fair. The next one is we also need to go out and get FDIs into this country, give them incentives. You have to get the dollars flowing into this country for us.
Absolutely, and
right?
And you know, the news from the hotel and leisure industry is that they are making do now, and they're not just sitting down. Now that they can't import various things, they're going local. They're going quite literally happily produced in Sri Lanka.
Right.
And so their neighbors, the farmers around those hotels, and eventually our whole farming, the agricultural side, will benefit because the hotels are using more and more local produce,
Yeah,
for example.
ecotourism and organic stuff.
And organic stuff, and so they're doing away. So they'll make their own chili powder.
Right.
Or they'll procure it locally. So instead of offering them apple juice, they'll
give Siembala juice. Siembala juice. Yeah, that's really nice.
You know,
right.
The local orange
Right.
juice, or whatever it is. You know, so that shows how resilient Sri Lanka is. And
yes, I think a compliment should be paid to the hospitality industry. They are doing their bit.
Indeed, they're doing their bit. But Malik, you know, when you have an inefficient national airline, then they're not doing justice. Everybody needs to be firing on all cylinders, not just somebody,
right,
or section. Everyone must be doing that. And very quickly, because we're running out of time, about 3 or 4 minutes now, do you agree with this notion that the government have no business being in business, and therefore state-owned enterprises, especially the ones that are, and that means the majority, state-owned enterprises, are making losses? Should they be sold off?
Yeah,
so that government can only be policymakers.
You said it. You said it all. You said it right. Government has no business to be in business. Government should be there to draw policy. One thing.
My late chairman said that to me.
Why should the government have 2 television stations? For what? Why do they need to have? I'm just telling you, right? Why do they need to have 2 television stations?
I'm going to keep my mouth shut because you know I work for this private station. Okay, so you say.
Right. No, what's the thinking? What's the rationale behind it? Why should they have? Right. Even 2. Right. So likewise, there are lots of things, right, where we have duplicated. Just because about 10, 15 years ago, some minister wanted this to happen, and then there was no policy on it, and it happened, right? And now it is a burden on everyone. Similarly, the national airline.
Why is it that the SEC cannot get the legal system to arrest the perpetrators of making Sri Lanka bankrupt? Very quickly, because you've got like 1 minute.
For us, I think a lot of things will need to be done. In fact, recently also I saw some of these cases which are coming up. Those are cases which happened basically in 2010. I would like to see some of these so-called pump and dump or market manipulators. You could see, right, there's a lot of market manipulation happening in the market.
Can I just say this? Asavata.
Yeah, so that's right. So I cannot, I mean, there is no indication that they have basically at least roped in someone, right, into market manipulation. You could see, right, with the new act, right, that is in the principal section of the act, right. So under section 129, it has been defined as market manipulation, right. Market manipulation is very simple, right. You're going against the grain of the normal market, which is against the basic policy, right, of demand supply, right? Defeating the basic policy of demand supply. People taking prices up, people taking prices down, mainly, right, with low cap stocks.
Thank you very much, Malik Kader, for your time with us. Thank you. And thank you for all your questions. The last one is the most interesting one that we could have discussed, but had it come earlier. The new central bank of Sri Lanka regime prints more money than the former. Question mark. We couldn't discuss that. But the question still remains, is the government planning for recovery or disaster? Take care. Have a great weekend. No, sorry, have a great week ahead of you. And it's now time for the Primetime News. Take care and God bless you.